guys, welcome back to the gym. It is your guy Boulanger. Let's talk. Well, as we are forward focused on the 2026 season, I told you that we will be putting on our pseudo GM hat and we will be conducting ourselves as EDC in concert with some of the things that he has said that he's looking forward to doing for this Baltimore Ravens team. And so before we can do anything with building a contender, we have to make some money. In truth, a lot of people are talking about teams building in the fashion that the Philadelphia Eagles have built in order to be able to compete and knock off the Chiefs. And that sounds real good on premise. But what the Eagles had done and have done is killed it in the draft, which has made their ability to sign free agents, which has made their ability to go out and trade for big time talent a lot easier. And so if your team has not killed it in the draft per se, then it makes it a lot more difficult to build like the Philadelphia Eagles have built. So what we're going to do is build like the Ravens. So let's figure out how we can create some cap space in order to begin to build a 2026 contender. Let's go over to over the cap. So when we get on over the cap, you won't see it, but over the cap estimates that the Baltimore Ravens have $13.8 million in cap space. Now, I've definitely heard many conversations that the Baltimore Ravens really have about 7 to 8 million. So what we're going to do is throw out both numbers, the 13.8 based on over the cap and the 7 to 8 million based on commentary. And we're going to say that the Baltimore Ravens have $0 because if we have 7 to 8 or 13, that's going to be the money set aside to sign our draft picks. And so let's go into this activity and let's just consider we have zero money. So we have to create money. So when you look at the contracts that are on the books right now, and this is a pre-June 1st number, then, top to bottom, you're going to see Lamar Jackson. You're going to see Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, Mark Andrews, Odafe Oweh, Derrick Henry, and the rest of the guys that make up the Baltimore Ravens top 10 to 12 salaries. And so, some of these contracts you don't want to touch because they're so new, right? I think that you don't want to restructure Roquan Smith because he's only going into his third year. And all a restructure does is kick that money down the road. You don't want to restructure a Madubuike. Matter of fact, you don't have a lot of cap savings in a restructure. He's only going into a second year of a new deal, so you don't want to mess with it. You're not going to touch Marcus Williams. He's not going to be on the team. Change the metric from pre-June 1st to an extension. What you will see is some cap savings, and a lot of the extensions or all of the extensions come with no dead cap hit. So extending Lamar Jackson, maybe taking the last 3 years of his deal and turn it into a 5-year contract, maybe something like 5 years, $300 million. And he's done enough over the last 2 seasons to deserve a pay increase and a contract extension. Because if we believe that Lamar Jackson is going to be our quarterback for the next at least 4 to 5 seasons, a contract extension is the better option because a restructure just does exactly what a restructure does. It just reduces the cap number for this season and push money down the road. And we'll have to do the same thing over and over and over as it pertains to Lamar Jackson's contract. So Lamar Jackson with an extension or restructure saves $15 million. Okay. So now we got $15 million in cap space. When you go down to Marlon Humphrey's contract is going to be a question. He has a big cap number of $25 million, and then an extension would save about $13 million. If you have a post-June 1st cut, it's going to save $18 million. But if we believe that Marlon Humphrey can be a viable slot option over the next, let's say, 2 or 3 seasons, then extension, turning his non-guaranteed money and just giving him some money up front, keeping him on the team, keeping him as a secondary leader, maybe something like a 3-year, $40 million deal. $20 million guaranteed, something like that, because he has no guaranteed money right now. I think lowers that cap number. And of course, it saves $13 million. So between Lamar Jackson and Marlon Humphrey, we've created $28 million in cap space. Mark Andrews is a contract that we're going to hold off to the very end because I think that we want to put Mark Andrews in a trade. His number is going to be super similar, whether it's a post June 1st cut, a trade, which is going to, both of those actions will save $11 million in cap space, but an extension will save $7 million in cap space. I think an extension for Mark Andrews is not the best way we should go. And I'm talking about in real life, not in pseudo GMing, only because an extension for Mark Andrews almost spells the end for an Isaiah Likely. And I think at some point you have to decide between the young talent and the older veteran, right? We absolutely know that Isaiah Likely has more upside than Mark Andrews just based on the age difference. He has more upside than Mark Andrews just based on the injury history. And I think going with putting the Mark Andrews money into the younger talent is the better option. So let's say an extension for Mark Andrews is going to save $7 million. A trade post June 1st designation is going to save 11. So let's say we're gonna definitely do something with Mark Andrews' contract this off season. So let's just tap it out at 8, and that would take us from 28 million to 36 million. When we jump down to Derrick Henry has already stated publicly that he would like to retire a Baltimore Ravens. I don't think he has to have 1,900 yards every season over the next 2 seasons in order to make his contract viable. I think that he could definitely do 1,200, 1,300 yards and still be a great option for the Baltimore Ravens while we include other young talent around him. And so a contract extension for him saves $6 million. That takes us roughly to, let's just round it out at $40 million in cap space. Of course, we're not going to do anything with Marcus Williams. He's off this team basically. And a contract extension for Ronnie Stanley would save $200,000. Not a lot of money, but it's still a savings. But I think Ronnie Stanley can come back at a 2-year $30 million number versus the estimated 2-year $40 million number, according to some of the other sites that I look into. I don't like Ronnie Stanley at $20 million. I like him better at $15 million. So if he's willing to give a hometown discount to stay around Baltimore and to retire a Raven, I think that 2-year $30 million is a good option. And so we're still knocking at around 40 to 42 million. And then Odafe Owe with a contract extension. His number is a hard cap number right now with 13, 14 million because that's his 5th-year option. But I think that an extension saves $6 million, which takes us up to about $48 million. And so the good thing about these extensions are that these are all players we want to be a part of the Ravens over the next few seasons. Marlon Humphrey, of course, again, is in question. Mark Andrews is in question. I think both of these guys could be in trade situations. I've definitely seen some trade proposals for both of these players. Either way, the numbers are still the numbers. If we trade Mark Andrews or Marlon Humphrey, of course, that will affect our cap savings because if you trade them for a player, you have to take on the other player's salary. If you trade them for capital, then the savings are the savings. So let's just say we have $45 million in cap space, depending on what happens with Marlon Humphrey and Mark Andrews. And so basically now we can go shopping. And the first thing I'm going to let you guys know is the first free agency, the first draft is all going to be fantasy, right? It's not going to be realistic. It's us just getting the players that we want. Okay, we got $45 million to spend. So going shopping, we're just going to get the players that we want. And so let's get into a free agency shopping list that is pure fantasy. If it's pure fantasy and we can get who we want, I would first sign in free agency, specifically get it done in the tampering period. I would absolutely go after T. Higgins. T. Higgins' estimated contract is 4 years and $100 million. That brings him in at $25 million a year. And I think he's worth that. Having that big X receiver makes him absolutely worth it. Again, this is fantasy. It's not likely that the Baltimore Ravens do it, but as we're playing pseudo GM, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and get T. Higgins and add him to our receiving corps. Now, no matter what you feel about T. Higgins, he is something we don't have on the roster. There's nobody on the roster that's like him at this point. and I think he would be a great addition. So now when we extend Ronnie Stanley, his number is going to be around $9 million after the extension and his signing bonuses and things like that. That leaves us with roughly $24 million in cap space. I want to go out and get Will Freeze from the Indianapolis Colts. He had a good year before he went out in week 5 with a broken leg. I think that he's had plenty enough time to heal. And if all his medicals check out and he's ready to go, I think signing Will Freeze, I think he's only 27 years old. He's a veteran guard. He's good in run block. He's solid in pass blocking. A guy who's going to come in and know exactly what he's doing. He's used to being in a dominant run style. And so I think he could be beneficial for the Ravens. I would do something like 4 years and let's say 4 years and $60 million. Putting some money into our offensive line. His cap number is going to come in right around $9 or $10 million. That takes us down to roughly $15 million in cap availability. But what we would have done, again, we're doing fantasy. What we would have done is solidified our offensive line. We would have solidified, upgraded our wide receiving corps. Now we can turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball, because now we can add talent in the draft offensively. So when we get to the defense side of the ball, I think that what we want to do is take a look at 2 positions specifically. We want to look at edge rush. And I think that I would like to go after Haason Reddick. He's only 30 years old. He's coming off of a year where he held out to get a contract extension. He did not get that. And statistically, he had a down year. But he's still quick. He still can, play well against the run. And the most exciting part is he can get his own, right? As a pass rusher, Haason Reddick can get his own. I know there's other options like Khalil Mack, who's ranked above him. But Khalil Mack is 34. And I would rather go with the younger, healthier talent in Haason Reddick, who absolutely is a consistent double-digit sack guy. His estimated contract is 2 years and roughly $20 million. I think that's really good for his caliber of player. So we can get him in-house. His cap number is going to come in his contract number will come in probably on the books for about $7.5 million. Of course, after signing bonuses and things like that, that's going to leave us with about $7.5 million. But what we would have just done is helped our pass rush and helped our offense. And in order to fill out the rest of the roster defensively, because you remember we've already set the money aside for our free agents, so we're in pretty good shape. So we're just going to couch the $7.5 million and then see who shakes out later on in free agency. So let me know what you guys think about T. Higgins extending Ronnie Stanley 2 years, $30 million, low cap number, low salary. Going to get Will Freeze as a left guard. Who creates instant credibility at the left guard position, and then bringing in a Haason Reddick. Let me know who you guys would like to replace these players I selected with. Remember, this is totally fantasy. We will have a trade episode coming up. Total fantasy. But let me know what you guys think about the cap situation and also these free agent selections. I'm out.